My uncle Jeff Warren had been attending church here for years, and I really looked up to him spiritually. So we decided our first visit as a couple was going to be to the church he attended, because it must have been something going on. All I knew was Richard Owens was a preacher here, so we sat down and listened to a great sermon. We got to the Colemans that night for dinner for 8. And I started talking about, man, Richard did such a good job. And about the third person I said that to said, well, that wasn't even Richard.
During our Christmas program one year, as we were doing the passing out of the candles for the final song, which is Silent Night, and everyone lights their candle and passes to the next person, like we've all seen in a church service before. Eventually we saw something that none of us had ever seen in a church service before. We look to our right and someone goes, "Oh," and we see that Anne-Marie's hair is engulfed in flames.
With Josh just finishing seminary, sometimes he throws out some big words that make me scratch my head. Sometimes after church, I'm like, I'm gonna have to go look that one up.
Richard asked me to put together a fake newsletter for April Fool's Day. So I put together a newsletter. I started with more believable stories, and they got more unbelievable as they went. And by the end, I think I was painting the church green, serving donuts in the sanctuary. And it's funny because several people didn't realize it was a joke. If you scrolled on down to the bottom, it said Happy April Fool's. William Patridge and Stevie Pillow, I think to this day, still have not forgiven me.
Misha, Trey O'Brien, and Rob Joyner ran the Warrior Dash because I was trying to be cool and fit in with the Westminster crowd. And so I think maybe the first or second time I ever met Richard was at that mud race. That was my indoctrination into the church.
And then we just came here January 2009. I think 2010. You can cut that part out. Okay, so that's not in the video?
No.
Perfect.
You know, going back on our younger leaders, I started crying during Gary's prayer. Of course, I was crying during Richard's sermon, too.
You're just a crybaby.
No, I'm not.
Watson Fuller was a good friend of mine, and we got to study the Bible together. I always told him that God took the low lifes in the Bible He used them. That's what he did with Watson Puller. He took the low life and he built a church.
Our son Eli, for the Christmas program, they're practicing now. You could be an angel or like
A shepherd, I think?
yeah, a shepherd. And he was like, "Oh, easy, I want to be an angel." "Oh no, only the girls are angels." And he said, "Not in my Bible."
He said, in my Bible, all the angels are boys.
One of the people that were in our group decided he wanted to cook a goat, a barbecued goat. And a bunch of us were standing around in a circle and we had a plate of barbecued goat. I couldn't even turn around before I spit it out. It was that bad.
Trey O'Brien, he's a joking kind of a fella. And one time I was walking down the hall after church and he kind of snuck up behind me real quiet and gave me the old slap on the behind real hard. So the next Sunday I had to get him back. So I got him pretty good, even harder. And that went on two or three times where it was becoming painful. So I snuck in there in the men's bathroom real quiet and there he was at the urinal. And I snuck up behind him and whack! About as hard as I could. He turns around and looks at me with eyes this big, but the problem was it wasn't Trey O'Brien. It was a man that I've never met in my life.
So it's just been a running joke that he and John Ford got to know each other in the most interesting way.
Had a lady that told me that she couldn't get in her vehicle. She was trying to get it to open, it wouldn't open. I said, well, let's just try it with the key like we used to do, you know. It wouldn't open. And after about 5 minutes, she realized that wasn't her vehicle. Wasn't even the right parking lot. So,
one Sunday morning, the air conditioning wasn't working. They had the doors open. Preacher was preaching the sermon, and a basset hound walks from the front of the church down the aisle to the pulpit and just sits there and watches the preacher preach. And so we don't normally have an altar call in the Presbyterian church, but I guess that's the first altar call I've seen at Westminster.